spotlights shine them bright. Gonna have a brand new show tonight with glitz and glam on the marquee. Perhaps a Tony nominee. Stars beam brightly, see them glow. Sell out nightly, SRO. It's time to applaud the Broadway beat. Stars beam brightly, see them glow in the footlights of a show. Life is sweet on the world's most famous street.
Tickets, please.
Take a seat
Cue the band.
and have your feet to the rhythm of the Broadway beat. The Broadway beat. Broadway beat.
Hello, I'm Richard Ridge, and welcome to Broadway Beat, our behind-the-scenes look at the very best of what the New York theater has to offer. How does an almost average family navigate today's overstimulated and overmedicated world? The answers can be found in the new musical Next to Normal, which has just opened to rave reviews at Second Stage. It features a stellar cast led by Alice Ripley and Brian Darcy James. Next to Normal has music by Tom Kitt, book and lyrics by Brian Yorkey, and direction by Michael Greif. We caught up with all of them and the rest of this up-and-coming cast at their recent opening night celebration. In this darkly funny and haunting new musical, one suburban household confronts its past and its future. Next to Normal explores how far two parents will go to keep themselves sane and their world intact.
It's just another day. The morning sun is stunning.
And you wish that you were running for all brightness.
It's just another day. Birds are singing, things are growing, and you wish you could be going, but you stay, and you stay forever. Though you know it's now or never. You know before forever. Every day is just another day.
Well, I loved the subject matter. I loved how surprising it was. And I also loved how appropriately the music conveyed the intense emotionality of the piece.
And just the score these guys wrote, because so much of this show is sung through, and it's so wonderful. Tell me what you think of the score.
I think the score is sensational. And I think Brian has really found ways in lyric and the very short scenes to really keep the story moving at a clip, really, so that it's constantly surprising. We never get ahead of it. It all rings true, inevitably, but it's also very surprising and unpredictable.
Talk about the look of the show, the look you wanted to have for the show and how it turned out.
Well, I'm very, very grateful to our spectacular set designer Mark Wendland and lighting designer Kevin Adams and costume designer Jeff Moishi. And Mark and I set out to try to find a way in which so much of the simultaneous action could be conveyed, and also how so much of the moments that take place in Diana's head could be conveyed. And we also knew that this house, this foundation, was an important part of the play. So that's how we set about this. And then Mark is a brilliant designer and ultimately came up with this in close collaboration with Kevin, who knew that the lights would also do extraordinary work in terms of storytelling when we were leaving reality and moving to a heightened kind of fantasy place.
It started with Brian and I. Brian and I met at Columbia College, and we worked on the Varsity Show, which is this traditional musical that incredible people, Janine Tesori and Terrence McNally. It's got a really rich alumni. And we entered the BMI Musical Theater Workshop, and for a 10-minute musical, we came up with this idea. And Brian had been reading, I think he saw Dateline one night that talked about some of the issues in our show, and he said, let's do this, and it started as a 10-minute musical and then grew into this production.
Well, let's talk about this production now at Second Stage, what you're proudest of. Talk about, your director, Michael Greif, and this wonderful ensemble and the collaboration.
Yes, I'm proud of everything. I'm proud of this incredible cast. I'm proud of our set designer, Mark Wendland, our lighting designer, Kevin Adams, and of course Michael Greif's incredible work. I'm proud of this incredible band that plays this score, which is for the most part through composed, and how they just breathe such life into the music that I never saw and Michael Starobin, who did the orchestrations. It's just from top to bottom a dream team, and I couldn't be more proud of the way it's coming off on stage.
What was the first song you wrote for the musical, and what was the last song you wrote for the musical?
That's a good question. Wow. I don't know if I remember the exact first, but in the 10-minute musical, I Dream to Dance, Aftershocks, and pieces of other songs like Feeling Electric were in that. The last song we wrote was the Natalie Diana duet in Act 2, Everything, and it's a good question because they're about 10 years apart.
It's like you gave birth to this thing 10 years ago when your child's grown.
Yeah, but it's amazing to watch something that was 10 years ago stand right next to something you wrote 2 weeks ago.
When did it all come together for you?
It's always felt like a piece that had real potential. I think that certainly that our last workshop with Michael was an incredible experience. And over the course of these weeks with Second Stage, I've worked on a number of musicals as a musical director, as a composer, and what you want to do all the time is make sure that the work you're doing as you get closer to the production is the right work. And I almost felt like we were adding to the piece, we were making it better. So I really felt like over the course of the rehearsal period and certainly through the preview period, we did smart work.
Well, we've been working on this piece off and on for like 10 years, and so it's been a long journey, but I think the most exciting part of it is really, this is the first full production we've done of it. We did a presentation at NIMH a couple years ago that was sort of halfway between a reading and a production. There were still some books in hand, and it was great. Fantastic production, fantastic actors, but we never really had a chance to put everything together, and this is the first time we've done that, and it's just been a revelation to watch these actors work, to watch Michael Greif work, and Kevin Adams, and Mark Wendland, and all these amazing people working on this play that's been our baby for all these years is really incredible. It's a privilege.
Now, Tom had told me it was your idea for the 10-minute musical for BMI. How did you come up with the idea for this piece? It's fascinating.
Well, I'm sort of embarrassed to admit that we were looking around for an idea for our final project and trying to do something a little bit different. We wanted to be a little bit, we wanted to be the rebels, and I saw a Dateline NBC report on shock therapy. It's very embarrassing to admit this, but I saw that and I had no idea that it was still practiced, and in fact it is. And I started thinking about the circumstances someone might find themselves in to get to that point, and also about the way our society deals with mental illness and with people who struggle with depression. And I said, that's a story that hasn't been told in a musical, so let's give it a shot. And so that's where we started off from, and we thought it would be at the very least it would be bizarre. And it actually turned into something that people really responded to, and that's why we kept going with it.
Who's crazy? The one who can't cope, or maybe the one who'll still hope, the one who sees doctors, or the one who just waits in the car. And I was a wild 25, and I loved a wife so alive. Now I believe I would settle for one who can drive.
Well, initially, to be honest, I was fearful of it. I was curious if you could treat this subject matter with intelligence and respect, and do it in a way that would be appealing and yet not offensive. I mean, because it does deal with very serious issues that every person, at least in my opinion, has at least one degree of separation from a matter of mental health and or lack thereof. And so, to answer your question, it was a bit of I had to digest it for a while. So, in the end, that's exactly why I think I was propelled to do it, because it is kind of a tall order, and why not try to tackle something like that?
Well, I mean, Natalie's incredible. The way she tries to stand her ground throughout the entire show and like protect herself, and like all the walls that she puts up are so much fun to play, and throughout the show, all the little peepholes that are poked in those walls, and everybody kind of sees through to like what's really inside. I mean, like she comes off sometimes like a little like edgy and a little like uptight, but then people realize it's like her fear of being loved and of every family ending up like her family, you know what I mean?
The characters have great journeys, but yours has such a full arc of where she starts, where she's in the middle, and how she turns out at the end.
Yeah, I mean, she begins the show kind of like a little lost, and like you see her like in the midst of, you know, like Just Another Day and everything, like where her mom's going nuts, and you see her getting really frustrated. And then Henry comes in, and she's, you know, she's afraid to start liking him, and then she kind of, I mean, maybe she falls in love with him a little in the middle, and then, you know, at the top of Act 2, she, you know, has definitely like grown a little more into herself, and like her anger is like a lot more exposed, and you know, and then you just see her take this huge journey with, you know, Henry, and just finally giving in to loving him, and her father at the end of the show when they, you know, they come together and they just like have a really great breakthrough, and it's awesome.
My character is you know, a typical 17-year-old going through everything with his family and a kooky mom, and he and his mom have a really great relationship, and they're kind of the two people who see each other eye to eye in the family, whereas he might not necessarily get along with his father. But I think that's, you know, very prevalent to a teenager growing up, that, you know, if you may butt heads with one parent but really see eye to eye with another, and you know, your relationship can really strengthen with that. And then I go on a great journey where finally by the end of the show my dad and I connect, and, you know, I start to have that sort of close relationship with my father. So, you know, I think that's very prevalent to anyone, you know, growing up and going through their own family. So
I am the one who'll hold you. I am the one who'll stay. I am the one who won't walk away. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I am the one who'll hear you. And now you tell me that I won't give a damn. Don't give a damn. I know you know who I am. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's who I am. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's who I am. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's who I am.
And the character immediately attracted me. Roles in musical theater for people my age before Spring Awakening were really a dime a dozen, and for my type too. So it was really exciting to work on that. And once I was cast and I read the piece, I knew it was going to be something special. It just had a lot of heart, and Henry has a lot of heart too. So it's such that, and the team. I mean, the people that I'm working with. That's enormously exciting for me, you know. So
it's been thrilling, of course. It's been a real challenge. I think as an actor myself, it's been a challenge, but I think for all of us, it's been a challenge to strike the right tone, you know. And Michael, our director, Michael Greif, who's just an amazing leader, has told us from the outset, you know, tone is crucial. From the get-go, from the top of the piece all the way through, striking that right tone is what's going to bring off material of this complexity and this kind of contemporary material. And so that's been the real challenge for all of us, is when to play things for laughs, when not to, when to just understand the stillness of the piece when that's needed. Really it's a balance. And so that has been just really the challenge. But to be a part of something like this, I mean, I don't know what you thought about it, but I'm thrilled with this piece. Oh, thank you.
I loved it. I really loved it.
Thanks. I love it too. You know, and I can't always say that about stuff that I get to do, but I do really believe in this one, so.
I miss the mountains. I miss the highs and lows. All the climbing, all the falling, all the while the wild wind blows, stinging you with snow and soaking you with rain. I miss the mountains. I miss the pain.
I feel like I've spent my whole life in the theater since I was 14. I'm 44 now. I've done a lot of wonderful things, and I feel like this piece is my life's work. I feel like I've waited my whole life to play this role. I'm basically channeling my mother through most of it. She wouldn't recognize herself, of course, but because of that, I feel like I just go out on stage, try to get out of the way of the piece and deliver it, but still reveal myself, because I'm a lot like Diana in a lot of ways. And the show just then, if I jump on it right, it just carries me away. It just kind of carries me. The songs overlap. It's almost completely sung through, and it just becomes like this ride. You better be ready to go when it sets sail,
Because you are fearless. You get behind that steering wheel of that car, you start, and then you end at the end of a second act, and there's no looking back for you.
I couldn't have played this until now. I couldn't have played it 5, 10, 15 years ago. I wouldn't have been right for it, but I wouldn't have been brave enough. It's scary, to reveal that much. But in the end, the audience gives it back. It's a relationship with the audience in the theater, and it's a beautiful thing when they give and you give and they give, and it just keeps going back and forth. And I feel like this show is a chance for the community to come together and see a true musical, something that's almost completely sung through. The music moves the story forward. I have very high standards for musicals, and I can't think of another show in town right now that I've seen that does this in the same way. And so I'm really proud of the work that we've done, and it's been the most challenging thing I've ever done. I've had a lot of struggles along the way to try to balance the passion of the material, with the technique of having to actually sound good and make it all work, make it all come together. And when I'm having a fight with Brian on stage, I can't really scream as loud as I might want to. I have to keep a gate on it, and it took me a while to figure that out.